Okay, we're going to talk today about how to choose your university specialty. I see so many university students that or high school students going in and struggling with what career should they choose, how do they decide on all the possible specialties out there, and it's surprising how many go into university without having chosen, and they're still trying to figure it out well into your career. And you have a huge advantage if you've when you're in university, if you already know what career you want to go into and where you're going, then you know exactly what courses to take, and even whether you need a degree or what degree to get. So now, first, I just want to tell you a story about this. So I had a friend of mine who got an environmental studies degree. Actually got his master's degree, and he got it because he was interested in the environment. And because he got a good mark, he actually right after university got a job with a company in that field, and he had a management job right off the bat. However, his starting salary was $50,000. He was really disappointed with that. He says, "I'm a manager. I have a master's degree, and all I get is $50,000 a year." So he's trying to live in downtown Toronto. Can't even live there, right? Can't afford to live there. So he says, "You know what? I wasted my degree. I should have got something that provides a lifestyle that I want." And I see that a lot. People go into a degree, but they don't actually know what career it leads to. What we're going to learn today is, why is it so hard to choose a specialty? How to avoid wasting your degree? And also, first of all, what do you want in your life? Defining all that. So first of all, do you want a successful, comfortable life, like a good income and a good lifestyle, along with a successful career? Or do you want to have something a service you believe in, something that you believe in, but maybe pays very little? I call it a vow of poverty, but basically you're getting into it because it's meaningful for you. Or do you want to get something, just something easy so you can enjoy your side life, your own life, and just have an easy job with good income? Like what kind of career are you looking for? So, and at the end, I give you my advice, things that advice I've given to a reasonable number of people, and this will really help you figure it all out, how to make smart choices. Now, the reason you should listen to me on this is because I'm not a career counselor or anything like that, but I have seen the full finances of literally thousands and thousands of people. So I know I get to talk to them about their careers and see how they live, and so I have a lot of insight into who likes their jobs and what kind of incomes they make and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I can help you. Now, why is it so hard to choose a specialty? I'll explain this in just a second, but there are two main reasons. One is, if you're in high school or university, if you're finding it hard to choose a specialty, it's probably because you probably hardly know any careers. That's probably why. So, and secondly, the ones that you do, like, you probably don't know what any of these careers are like. So that's probably what the problem is for you. Okay, so let me explain this a little bit more. The reason I say you don't know hardly any jobs, and actually it's funny how often I do this to high school students, or people who just started university. Ask them, just name 10 professions. Just name 10, and it's amazing how many of them can get stuck at 5 and don't know anymore. So in case you're wondering, there are, based on what I've been reading, about 12,000 possible careers. There's a huge number of careers, and that's like categories of fields that you can go into. So there's so many different jobs out there. So how do we find out what we want to do? And if you only can name 5 or 10, then look at all the possibilities that you're missing. The other thing is that you may not actually know what they're like. So let me just tell you my story. So when I was in high school, I was good at math. So math was my thing. I found math easy. I could get an A+. I never had to do homework. I did math homework in physics class and physics homework in math class. It was easy. Meanwhile, English, B-, C+, and lots of overtime, couldn't figure out English. But math was my thing, and I also loved it. Even, I remember being in grade 3 and actually finding my parents' grade 5 math books and just doing math exercises for fun. I actually just loved math. So I thought, okay, math is what I should be doing. So when I was thinking about university, I asked around, so what do you take in university? went to a university fair. They said that basically the three areas of math are accounting, actuary, and marketing. So those were the three. So I picked accounting, thinking, I'm doing math for companies and all this. Now, what I didn't realize is there is actually hardly any math in accounting. The math is actually really easy. It's add, subtract, multiply, divide. It's not this really complex math. If you watch Big Bang Theory, you see all these complicated math that they're doing, the big projects, or it's nothing like that. That was a very simple math. So and what's more is when I got into accounting, what I found out, it was a management job. Like just a year or two in, I was manager of an accounting department. I had 6 people working for me, and most days I didn't even turn my calculator on. It was a management job. Nobody told me this was a management job. I thought it was a math job. So now the thing is, by then I'd gained enough confidence that I was able to work within it. So, however, the truth is I went into it without without any knowledge of what the job was actually like. And so many jobs can be like that. And so, plus at the time, when I went into it, there were only a few things that were math related. Now there's all kinds. You can be a theoretical physicist, the Big Bang Theory. You could be a data scientist, economist, engineer, ISIT. In fact, I was really interested in IT. If I'd known if I thought of that at the time. So back when I was at that age, I was, one of the first people in Canada to have a home computer. In 1982, I had my own home computer and programming on it and all kinds of stuff. So, but never thought of that for a career. So now a career, it's possible you don't actually need a university degree. There are university degrees. There are professional designations that a lot of them need. Some of them you need a degree to get into, and some you don't. And or you may just get a co-op program can in some fields be a really good way to take a career, because you learn about it, and at the same time you get some work experience with it as well. Now, one thing I just want to talk about is, like some people ask me, like, is a university degree worth it? Especially, like an arts degree or something like that. And some people say, yeah, you just do it, just to learn how to learn. But what you actually learn may not be that useful. And the truth is, what you learn in an arts degree, most of it is not necessarily that useful in the business world. What's more is you may find that the culture in a university is quite different. It's very, I don't know what the word called, very left wing or sheltered or whatever. When you move into a business world, what you find, it's a very different culture, and often the university hasn't prepared you for having a real job and the different environment that it has. Yeah, so what actually is the value of university degree? And you may find this interesting, because people ask me, like, I've hired quite a few people. Would I hire someone with a university degree, considering they may not have learned anything in my field, they may be wanting more money, and they may have, a culture that doesn't fit with a job. So, but however, the real advantage of a university degree is just that it's hard to get, and it requires initiative. And that could be, so even if that could be the main thing, even if you didn't learn anything useful. So university degree, you have to, apply, you got to do research. Then you got to go get the university, got to do all your courses. And, it's not like high school where teachers will follow up if you don't hand it in. If you're in university, you don't hand anything in, nobody cares. They just fail you and you paid your tuition and that's it. So you need to take the initiative and you need to work hard on it. And that is really the number one benefit of a university degree, other than degrees that are specifically in the field that you want. Okay, so now another issue that you may find that causes you to waste your degree, the story I told you about my buddy with the environmental degree, but is that people often tell you that you should choose something you love, but maybe it's more than that. Maybe you should choose something you love and that provides the lifestyle you want. And so, at this point, when you're just starting out, you may not be thinking ahead to the lifestyle you want in the future, but let's hopefully that actually provides that lifestyle. So to avoid wasting your degree, here's what you can do. Here's how you can start thinking about your specialty. So first of all, do think about what are you good at, what do you enjoy doing, and think about it from that perspective. And then it's a really good thing to have a growth mindset. And this really, to me, I just had a recent video all about this, and to me, it's one of the top life skills. And it's hard for me to describe the benefit, but when you have this growth mindset, you tend to just make smarter decisions in life, and you tend to be focused in the right way. So just think of, like if you look at humans compared to 100 years ago, the life of humans has improved drastically in pretty well every way. And that's a trend that's continuing. Life is getting better and better, more comfortable, more, more, more comforts, more, living longer, living healthier, more things to do, more interest, more things to learn. Like everything is getting better for humans. And so if you're thinking of that way and you have that kind of mindset, you can make a smarter decision. And the business world is not like that. If you haven't been in the business world yet, that's the mindset you kind of need to get in and move up in the business world. So you're not doing the bottom run, which are often the more boring jobs. You're moving up, hopefully, to more interesting jobs. And it's because you're always given targets, and you meet those targets, and you go to the next level. What's the next level? What's the next level? And you're always looking for more and more improvement. And that's a different culture than what you get in school necessarily. But here you're always looking for more improvement. So it's sometimes called, the word is called Kaizen. It's based on the Japanese manufacturing model, but it's basically continuous improvement. So now another thing important to think about is, what lifestyle do you want to have? So you want to have something that pays a decent income so you can live the life that you want. Now, I know some people think, well, that's all greed. I should do something that's meaningful in the world. Okay. But you know what? I know lots and lots of people that work hard and make a lot of money, and it's actually not about greed. If I look at what's driving them, it's not greed. It's providing for their family. They want to have a family. They want to live a certain comfortable life. They want to have a decent home and a car and do some traveling and be with their, afford to be with their family. And that's requires a certain amount of money to have that lifestyle. So, and a general thought to have, and just the interesting thought to have, is there's a famous quote that says, your income is based on how much good you do in the world. And you have lots of exceptions to that, but it's a general statement that is true. And I just want to talk about, I can mention Elon Musk as an example. He's a self-made billionaire. But if you look at all the things that he's done, he's started 5 businesses, at least all of which are things that if you told me ahead of time he was going to do them, I'd say that's impossible. But like, he started the entire electric car movement, and he's the one that's going up to, like, bringing satellites up into space. So it's just totally amazing what he's doing. And to me, he's fully earned his billions, because look how much good he's done in the world. So think of how can you contribute? How can you do things that are of value to humans, do value and something of value in the world? So, so for the career that you're going to go do, it's actually worth thinking in dollars. I find so many things are clearer when you put numbers on them. Like, what's it actually going to be? Now, when you get into career, you want to choose something that is a valuable career, where you're doing something of value and you're helping your company. So you're doing a job that really helps with them. And it's nice if it's a growing company, part of a valuable product and service, so that you're contributing. And then within a company, the jobs that you have within a company that pay a lot of money are the ones that are in the profit creating part of the company, not a service. So it's sales or production or engineering or finance. These are kind of the areas that tend to pay more, versus the human resources and the special projects and things that are not in the money making area tend to make a bit less. So that's why, for example, my friend in the environmental studies job, so that entire company was not a high profit company. So therefore, they couldn't pay people a lot. So if you want to make a good income, work for a company that makes a good profit, and make for one of the parts of the company that make the profit. Then being confident is actually a really important thing. And people will say, well, I'm just going to rely on my gut. I'm choosing this career because of my gut. And my question to them often is, do you feel confident with that? And it's just a general thing that I've learned about myself is, when I'm feeling very confident, like not overly confident, but just confident that I'm in myself, then my gut often leads me in the right direction. And when I'm feeling a bit more insecure and unsure, that's when my gut often leads me in the wrong direction. So one way to look at it. So let's talk about, what do you want in your life? Okay, so do you want this successful, comfortable life, like with a good income and a decent lifestyle and providing for your family and all that? Or do you want to do something that you find meaningful, even if it has a vow of poverty or doesn't pay much? Or do you want an easy job with decent income? What do you really want? So now this growth mindset, or this is the growth mindset, or let's say that if you're going to work for a successful, looking for a successful, comfortable life. The big thing is, the big advantages there are, like, people may think, oh, you're trying to be shallow with money, but it's not that. You're providing for your family. You get exponentially more money. It's not a little bit more, it's a lot more. Remember, over a 30 or 40-year career, it's massively how much more you have. And having money or having a good solid career can give you a confidence. And I call this like the millionaire next door confidence, kind of a quiet confidence. So, most people think millionaires are, the big home and the big car and the private jet and all that. But, almost all millionaires, I've met lots and lots of them. And most millionaires live in regular neighborhoods, drive regular cars. There's a whole book about this called The Millionaire Next Door. Most of their family and friends don't even know they're millionaires or multimillionaires, and because they more want to just fit in, but they just have this quiet confidence about them because they know they're not have to worry. They can always afford things that they want, and it's that kind of confidence you can have from having a solid career. And also gives you, security and freedom. One of the things we do with all our clients is we ask them what's really important about money to them, so that we can create a financial plan that speaks to their life. And and these are the most important values for most people. Like, there's many different values, but the most important two are security, feeling secure about yourself and about your future, and also freedom. Like, it's having, which requires some extra money, the freedom to do what you want in your life. So, all right, so now let's talk about what careers provide you with a successful, comfortable life. And now, so when I'm done with this, if you can see, if right now you're going to name 5 or 10 careers, when you're done with this, you're going to see that there's lots more. Now, what I'm going to show you is, these are just my experience of people that I have met that that have good paying jobs. So I'm going to show you a whole bunch of possible careers that pay well in general. Now, there's lots of exceptions. Not everybody in these areas pay well, and there's lots of areas other than what I'm about to tell you. But these are just kind of from what I experienced, areas that pay well. The first one is information technology, and people say it's an IT job as if it's one job, but IT is just incredibly wide. There's all kinds of different fields, and some of them are much more in demand than others. So you just got to look at, these are just some of the categories of IT. Systems analyst, you're designing it, designing a whole system, the designing the programs that the programmers would write. Web designer, you're doing the internet, user experience, so you're focusing on the users who are actually going to use it. Programmer, analyst, you're doing it programming. Software engineers, database developers, it's more the underlying system. One of some really interesting ones is working with these big enterprise software, and you can learn to be a consultant in them. And so the funny thing, so some of them are like Java and .NET and SAP, and there's other ones now. Right now, interestingly, some of the hospitals here in Ontario are getting into a big program called EPIC. And so the interesting thing about these big enterprise software, is that they're always a disaster. Everyone that puts them in, there's always a disaster. There's a ton of problems. So the project managers, IT people that come in after it's installed, just to fix everything and get everything working, can make a huge amount of money. And it's a big constant demand because companies are continually putting these in, and they all have problems. It's really kind of funny. So they get good pay from doing that. So network engineer can always be more about the hardware, putting the computers in this and all the different the backups and all the actual hardware for it. A project manager is interesting just from from being in companies is one of the big problems is that the management or sales is trying to create they're trying to create a program that actually either helps them with their business or that tracks everything in their business, kind of runs the business. And then but they're trying to get the programmers to write it, and the programmers and the management and sales, the business people, don't speak the same language at all. It's amazing how often they can just like if you understand both of them, you realize they're talking, they're not even understanding each other. So as IT project manager, basically you're the one translating them. It's as if they talk a different language, right? The IT people are talking all this lingo and databases and all their acronyms, and management is saying, I want a program that does this. So if you can get them to translate and explain what that means in IT speak. Another big one now is IT security, with all the hackers around, even company hackers, like country hackers, and so security is actually a huge thing. A company can go down just because they didn't have proper security. So now IT, it's if you really like computers, it can just be fun, and you can also get a good feeling because you design something that sometimes you can log in at home and you can see it, just get a good feeling from yourself. Look, see, I did this, and I can log in at home and I can see the results of what I wrote. And most of these have transferable skills. If you're good in one area, there's lots of areas of IT. So, and it's a huge field. So this is a really good place to get a good paying job. Another one is financial services. Basic financial services really where the money is, and because it's financial. But really, this is some of the really high paying jobs. And so you could be like an investment advisor. Some of them make more than others, like a bank or even working on your own. Financial analysts you get the CFA designation. These are the people that analyze companies and sectors, and basically they provide information to fund managers. And the financial analysts are also the ones, if you listen to the business news that they talk about a company, they're the ones that did all the work on it. They'll write these 100-page reports. Now, a fund manager would manage a mutual fund or hedge fund or something like that, and they can actually make really good money if they can run something. It's a little bit challenging because your success isn't entirely up to you. It could just be, the market goes bad on your style. Oh, and investment bankers are the ones that work for the big banks or brokerage firms that actually issue the initial securities, and they're so big projects and big one-time payouts, each year kind of thing. It's interesting, kind of a high pressure, high stakes job. So then you can be a financial planning like me, like a fee for service financial planner. And the big difference for me is, we're just focusing on making a difference in the lives for people. So we're actually doing personal financial planning. Then you can be in accounting, like I was an accountant the first part of my career. And there's two main branches. One is management, where you're working for a company, being part of the management team, and so you're doing their accounting and their financial statements and all that, but you're also reporting on all their costs and helping them manage the company and control their costs and all that. And then the other one is like the CAs, the auditors come in at the end of the year and do the audit and file the corporation tax returns and all that. So it's kind of the two main branches. But what then is the actuary? These are the people that do the analysis for insurance companies about analyzing risk and what should the premium be on a life insurance or house insurance or car or business insurance. So these are all kind of good paying jobs. Most of these are professional designations, not necessarily university degrees, but a lot of them you need a degree to get into them. These are all needed and growing fields, and there's good money in this kind of area. And there's much more actually in the financial services field, but it's just something that I mentioned. So another big one is engineering. So, and again, there's a few different areas of it. So the ones that pay good money are usually mechanical, electrical, and chemical. So mechanical is you're working for cars, like auto company, or airplanes, aerospace, satellite, which is satellites in space and all that. So that's all the mechanical. Electrical, it's more computer related. So and chemical, you work for different chemical companies, and could be oil and gas or something. But those are the three that pay the good money. The other one is civil, where that's doing businesses and roads and and bridges and all that kind of stuff, mostly businesses. They tend to make less money than the other big three. Um, Now, some of them that you may find interesting is this. I call them anti-trend fields, like oil and gas or nuclear. And I think a lot of people are of the opinion that these are being phased out. But when you talk to the people, the insiders, they know these are going to be around for decades. These jobs. These are the jobs in energy. These are the areas that pay really well. Oil and gas is mostly out west. Alberta, Saskatchewan. Nuclear is mostly Ontario, but these are actually really good fields where there's quite good pay. They can be quite rewarding. And there's a lot of other areas of engineering, but it can actually be cool, and you can often be designing interesting things. So we had a client that was working for Honda for a number of years as an engineer, and got offered a job with Tesla. They transferred him down. Like, it's interesting because from when he got the offer to when he was living in California and working at Tesla was 2 weeks. They could bypass all the immigration rules and green card, and you get right, and you're in there working for this company creating these cars, and it's a totally different um, culture at Tesla. At the Big Five, if you have an idea to improve something that's going to cost money, you have to put a proposal in and do all the research and what's it going to cost and what's the payback on it. Tesla, because they have such huge demand, anything that they do, if you have an idea that's going to increase the volume that they produce, there's no report. You just mention the idea and they go for it. Like, it's really interesting culture. So here's, you can engineering, you can design things that it's funny, I had a buddy who designed a part in an elevator. So anytime you get an elevator, he can see this is a little piece that I designed. It seems very minor, but actually, because you can see it everywhere, and that's part of why engineering pays well. It's scalable. You create one thing and it can be used in thousands and millions of places by millions of people, and that's why it can pay well. So now, one of the interesting things is while engineering can seem fascinating, lots of math, I think these are usually spreadsheet people, but engineers usually working for big companies, and that can often be very bureaucratic. And interesting, one thing I find in the financial planning field is lots and lots of engineers all want to be financial planners. And it's because they get into spreadsheets and suddenly think they know something about finance, and they find their own companies very bureaucratic. So I've known a fair number of engineers that left to become financial planners. So interesting. I think I would find engineering interesting, but a lot of them find finance interesting. Another big one is doctor in medicine, and so here again, lots of different fields here. So like, you could be a family doctor, and that can actually be a bit challenging. You get to know lots of people, and it's a very human thing, but often you don't, it can be a very trying, like emotionally, a lot, like lots of work involved. Pediatrics, working with kids, it may sound like you love working with kids, but that's actually, believe it or not, it's the field of medicine with the highest suicide rate, because it's really hard. Like, if you have kids with terminal cancer, it's really emotionally draggy. But it can be interesting. Radiology. So I know a guy who actually specifically went into radiology because it is the type of doctor that makes the most money, and you have minimal people contact. You're mostly studying, all these study the scans that have a person of cancer and that kind of thing. So oncology, it's a really growing thing, the study of cancer, and cancer is one of the biggest, one of the two main reason that people die is cancer. And therefore, as the baby boomers, as our entire society is aging, there's more and more cancer. And part of why there is a bigger increase of cancer than there used to be is, it's actually good news. It's because people are living much longer, and cancer is something that people tend to more get when they're older. So big growing field. Ophthalmology, you're studying the eyes. Sports medicine, you get to work with athletes and different kind of field. Dermatology, you do work with movie stars and do all their plastic surgery, but a lot of dermatology is a lot of more basic stuff. The emergency doctors, these are the people that just love action, and it's what you see ER on TV, whatever. It's actually, it can be it can be quite lively, and you have to be the right kind of person to do that kind of field. Gastroenterology, you may not know what that is, but it's actually a huge field. It's basically everything to do with the internals of your body. So it's actually a really huge field. Hematology, this is actually the other big. So the big killers, number one killer is heart disease, and is heart disease, basically heart attack and stroke, and that's mostly under the hematology area, where they're studying all the blood diseases and all that. Epidemiology, so we just had the COVID issue. So pandemics, here you're studying pandemics and how to deal with them. And, interesting, are we going to get more in the future? How do you deal with all those? Surgeons are high paid people. You're actually doing the doctor, doing, cutting into people. And I could never have done that when I was young because I was scared I was grossed out by blood, but, I could do it now. But it seems really interesting. And I've seen people whose lives were completely changed by an awesome surgeon that saved their life. And medical researchers, so these are the people that are in a university lab. They may or may not specifically be doctors, but these are often the people that are discovering all the new medical discoveries are done by people in the lab doing real detailed tests and testing on it and finding out all the new medicines and how to solve different health issues for people. So lots of things happening in the medicine field. And you know what, there's a huge shortage of doctors. There's tons of work at doctors, or even the broader medical field. It's a really huge area, so good pay. So now another big area is marketing and sales. Now when you get into companies, what you find is you look at the top management, and a lot of management teams, there'll be like a salesperson, a marketing person, a finance, accounting person. Then you'll have the production person, right? And human resources people. And out of those, the CEO is usually coming from the marketing sales area. That's usually where they are, because they're the ones kind of driving the profits of the company most. And it's interesting. I remember years ago looking at going to university fair and looking at all the different jobs in there, all the different fields. And then it struck me that, out of all the different careers that you can have, or all the different specialties in a university, 80% of all jobs are business. All these other specialties are a small part of it. So it's businesses that are really where almost all the jobs are. So actually, it's like business has more jobs than all other fields combined. So big, huge field. Every company needs salespeople or marketing people. So and good income. And once you get good at it in one area, you can do well in another area. Learn a skill. You can easily, if you get laid off, you can easily get moved to another company. And so good job. A lot of them are commission based and or bonus based. They can get quite good income. Now, math is kind of this is what I wish had been around when I was younger. Now, what they have jobs like data scientists. These are the people that do the really complex math and try to study the world and try to analyze things. Then there's economists who are specifically economists. Usually study the economy, but they can actually study anything that requires a lot of math. They can be data science as well. And I know some recent PhD grads that have really interesting jobs as an economist. Then there's the theoretical physicist, because I love the Big Bang Theory. I just see the stuff that they do looks so fascinating to me. Studying space and learning about, how did 14 billion years of the university, what's happening in the university, in the universe, and trying to understand it all. That's really cool. Then, of course, actuary, the insurance premium setting people that do all the math calculations. So these people are all like really good math geniuses. And, these areas all tend to be hard to get into, but high pay. If you're really good at math, that's a great way to go. So another big one is project management. And there you can just get a PMP. It's often a certificate. So it's a simpler program, and basically try to solve problems for business or government. And you may work for them, or a lot of them are self-employed, and you may get a project where you work for a company for 2 years and then work for another company, and you could be the guy leading the project or somebody following in it. Big needed field, and every business has problems. Like people know their specialty, but they don't know how to solve things altogether. So you can be the guy that comes into a business and solves whatever problems they can't seem to solve. And same with governments. Governments really have a lot of problems, and if they have the motive to solve them, you can be the guy. Um, I talked to a guy who was he had been brought in as a consultant from England to help with public transit projects in here in Toronto. And so I asked him, like, why did they bring you in from England? Like, aren't there lots of engineers? Like, why did they bring you in from here? Like, why does the governments hire outside consultants? And he says, Ed, you don't actually understand this. So governments have, like 7 layers of management, and basically every layer of management just says no. It just causes problem. And so that if they didn't bring in outside consultants, he says, a lot of these projects would never, ever get done. Like here we have in Toronto, we have Union Station. It's been under construction for, I don't know, 10 years. I don't know. It looks like they maybe got a third of it done. I don't know. It's just, it never, ever, these projects never, ever get done. And they need to bring in outside consultants that actually know how to do things and get things done. But project management can be a really interesting job if you can be the guy that goes in and makes something happen. So now, I mean, I missed some other ones in like for example, lawyers. There's a lot of other professions, and so I haven't said nearly all of the main professions, but I just wanted to list a bunch of them that I've run into. Now, another interesting one is the trades. Like this, carpenters, electricians, plumbers are kind of the main 3, and you usually get a certificate, not a university degree. And there is a big need for these. Like there's a real shortage. And it's interesting, like if you're trying to find a good handyman or a good person in this field, what you find is almost all the qualified people are over 50. In fact, most of them seem to be over 60. So I don't know who's going to build our houses down the road, who's going to do all this stuff. Now, these are a bit, I call them anti-trend jobs, because I think a lot of people today, a lot of younger people today, see these as kind of, oh, that's kind of dirty jobs, plumber, you're working with the pipes and all the sewage, but they think of these as kind of outdoor jobs, or you get your hands dirty, and I could rather work in a clean environment in an office. And however, that's often why they pay well. And I can tell you, the pay may be much more than you think. So if you are a plumber and you start getting a bunch of regular customers, and you start hiring plumbers, and if you're a plumber with let's say you have a small firm with 5 plumbers working for you, you're probably making more money than a doctor. And especially after tax, because you have a business, you can have all kinds of deductions and stuff. But doctors are often paid salary, and whatever, all their income might be taxable, so you may have a lot of tax advantage. So trades can actually do really well. And the really cool thing about it is, once you're handy, I see a lot of the people that I know in trades, they all have, like, they're able to fix things up in their house and do all kinds of things. They're able to build things at home, and often their homes are really neat because they have all this cool stuff. So trades, don't knock them, and there's a real shortage there of and it's getting more and more. It was there even before, like a lot of careers now after COVID have shortages, but trades, that's been a shortage for 10 years, and it's just getting worse. So another cool one is being an entrepreneur, starting up your own business. Now, this is hard to do until you get some basic business experience and you learn about business. A lot of entrepreneurs, it's surprising how many of them don't even have university degrees, or have their businesses not in the field that they studied. So, but here, you start your own business and build it up, and you got to have the right entrepreneurial mindset. Like, you got to be the kind of person that gets things done. So you got to make calculated risks and be a person of action. I find it's the people, like I'm a person that thinks things through in detail. Us people who analyze things are often not necessarily the best entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are these action people. So entrepreneur can have like the biggest risk and the reward. So the risk is, 95% of all new businesses are bankrupt in 5 years or less. So if you start up a business, the odds are against you, and it's a lot harder than you think, especially now there are so many government regulations and programs and all. It's actually really complicated to do all the things that you need to do to run a business. Plus you have to, create your product, you have to design it, you have to hire people, and have competitors and production problems and inventory. It's really complicated. So Big reward though, if you look at the Forbes 400 richest people, 80% of them are entrepreneurs. So the cool thing about our free enterprise system is the wealthy people mostly started out as regular middle class people and made all their millions or billions on their own. And that's the vast majority of the wealthiest people are like that. They built all of it on their own. So if you build a company, you could do it really well. So I wrote a plan for a guy who was 29. He built a business and sold it for $6 million, and he was 29. And then so I actually wrote a plan for him and his and his new wife, and basically it was about how what if he never had to work again. He wanted to know that if everything fails after this, what am I going to do? And so we created a plan. So if just with what he had today, this is the lifestyle he could afford for the rest of his life. But he says, the truth is, he says, I now know how to build businesses. And I've seen that with lots of entrepreneurs. They build lots of businesses. So he says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start another business. And I think in 5, 6, 7 years, I can sell it for another 5 or 10 million. And then I'll start another business and I'll sell it. That's interesting because a lot of people who design businesses build something that they want to do, and they design something they want to do. But the real successful entrepreneurs are building a business that they can sell. So it's something you're trying to build and design something that makes a difference in the world, and that there's a demand for it, and yet it can run without you. It's not a personal service that you're doing. It's something you can sell. So here, your degree may not be important, but you need to have knowledge in a bunch of areas where you have to have to know how to hire people in areas that you don't need. So the degree itself may not be important. It's just knowledge or business knowledge or product knowledge or something that makes the difference here to be an entrepreneur. So now those are just examples. And again, there's lots of other areas of other fields that do well, but those are a bunch that I have personally run into, and I know lots of people that do really well with it. So now the other thing is that you could do something that you find meaningful. And maybe it's, if you care less about money and just more about doing something that you think is meaningful in the world, then you can pick a career here. And it's something either meaningful or fun. And I call it a vow of poverty. A lot of these jobs don't pay well at all. So you can think you're never going to have a very comfortable life. You may always be very tight for money. You may not have the lifestyle that you'd like to have, but you're doing something either fun or meaningful. And the first thing is just all the fun jobs. People like being in restaurants. Think of the things you like to do for fun. The people that have those jobs often don't make much money. Restaurants, golf courses, retail sales. Like, people like to go in the mall and buy things, but it's the people in the mall that don't really make much money. Same thing with music and arts. There's even a handful of really successful people, but like the average musician is like the average actor. They make less than minimum wage, because almost the starving artist is a slogan, but it's actually really true, because most of them are. It's really hard to make it in these areas. So most of these areas have very low pay, and sometimes it's shockingly low. Right? You can have a musician and they work 80 hours a week for the whole year, and they've made $3,000. Like, it could be just shockingly low. But even restaurant jobs and retail sales, the reason they pay so little is because lots of people just find it kind of fun. It's easy. You don't need much training. And what happens is, because there's so much demand, like whatever you're doing, there's thousands of people that want to do it, so they don't really have to pay you a lot. So you need to now today, I want to say, after COVID, it is right now different. Okay. Right now here in Toronto, like basically all the restaurants and stores are crying out for people. And if you want to work for a company here, you can get in now and get a decent wage and get like some of these jobs are better. Like, for example, a restaurant, if you're at the higher end restaurants, you can be getting much bigger tips and and that kind of thing. So it's a little different today, but that's probably not going to last forever. So these fun jobs often pay not that much. Then what happens at any point in time, there are what I call the trendy fields. And these are the things that are popular at any point in time. And we call it the social goods. It's the things that maybe these are the things that are the most meaningful for you to make the biggest difference in the world. However, this does change from time to time. So it's not the same now as it was, 10, 20, 30 years ago. But today, kind of the biggest ones are environmental studies. Then there's all this diversity, equity stuff, and then, indigenous studies. So these kind of fields, um, you may feel you're doing a good social good, but just like my buddy with the environmental degree that paid very little. So these areas, you're usually not working for a company. You're working for a nonprofit or a company with very low profit, or you're working for government, and that's part of why these are just not high-paying jobs at all. It can be meaningful, but if you find it that way, but it can be low income. So this is where I wasted my degree. If you live that way, and then you find, oh man, I can't afford to live a comfortable life. I can't afford to buy my own home and get married and have kids because I'm making too little money. So, but maybe what you value is making a difference in the world in whatever you think is important. So, and if that's more important to you than the money, then maybe that's what you want to do. So another one of our poverty is nursing. Interesting is nurses don't actually make a lot of money, and it's actually a really hard job. We all saw that in COVID. And I know a bunch of nurses, and basically all of them advise their kids don't get into nursing. As funny as again, a huge shortage, and a lot of people find it very fulfilling. You're actually giving personal care to people all the time. You make a huge difference, and you get to visually see how you help people. But you don't go into nursing for the money. You go in because you want to make a difference for the people that you're looking after. So the third kind of area is interesting is if you want just an easy job with a decent income. I don't want to work hard. I want to enjoy my personal life, but I still want to have a decent income. So here's a couple areas that you can go into. One of them, surprisingly, is truck drivers. Now, this is again an anti-trend field. Why? Because lots of people think, self-driving cars, eventually there won't be truck drivers. But today, if you look at jobs that men have, the single most common job is truck driver. And you know what? It's actually a lot more than it used to be. Now, eventually this might get wiped out by self-driving cars, or at least reduced. But so the reason it's more is we used to ship things in bulk. Years ago, 50 years ago, we did mostly in trains that would deliver things, and then it was semi-trucks delivering to warehouses and to big stores, and everything was coming in bulk. And now we're buying things one by one, and it's so businesses of manufacturing have all gone to just in time, so they don't and also make to order, so they don't buy a ton of stuff. They buy just a small amount every day of what they need. And you think you order something on Amazon. I always find this kind of cool about one of the amazing things about Amazon is I bought a cable for $6 and they delivered it to me in 24 hours. And I thought, well, how could they even make money on a $6 cable personally delivered to me with good service? But it's like you look at there's tons and tons. There's more and more and more small deliveries, and that's why there's a huge demand for truck driving. And actually, so I found people that aren't happy with their job and they're later on in their career, and what thing can you start? And truck driver, you got to get a basic certificate, but you can get that in 3 months. In 3 months, you're making 60 to 80,000, and you can be making that quite easily. It's not hugely demanding, and if you like driving, kind of cool job. Another one is government, and a lot of people in business, kind of like me, tend to make fun of government, but it's an interesting category because one of the interesting things about it is you actually work pretty short hours. You work like a 7-hour, half an hour a day, but you take every coffee break and every lunch. In most business people don't do all that, right? They just kind of work through breaks normally. So me as an entrepreneur, like a coffee break where you sit and relax, I get, I don't know, 2 a year. Government people, they get 2 coffee breaks. They take every break. I was a consultant for 4 months for a government department, and that's what I find is, you work 9 to 4, or I guess 9:30 to 4:30 is what you work. However, there's a 15-minute break, but everybody, gets in the elevator, goes down to the cafeteria, and the break starts from when you sit down. So really, the half an hour, the 15-minute break was half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon. The half an hour lunch was actually a full hour. So out of the 8 hours, 2 of them are just on breaks. And so they obviously, a lot of them, they work no overtime as part of the government union thing. They put pressure on you if you work, you don't want to embarrass everybody else. And I used to joke at the company that the government department that I work for is that if 4:30 in 1 second you stood up and whipped frisbees across the office, there was zero risk you would hit anybody. Like what happens is that at 4:20 everybody's packing up their stuff and then they hit the elevator, and 4:30 on the nose, they're in the elevator going down. It's and most of the time there's no responsibility. You just do your job and go home, and you don't have to think about your job. It's a nice, relaxing job, and it pays well. It's got good benefits. It's got a big pension plan, and it's actually easy to move up in management. I learned that from consulting. What you do is you get a starting job in there, and then you can post for jobs. What you do is you post for a job that's 1 or 2 levels above you, a management job, but you go to somewhere that they don't want to go. So I got an offer. I was only there for 2 months, and I got offered a job, significantly higher pay as a management job, but I have to go to Yukon. And I'd say, I don't want to go to Yukon. They said, well, no, you're missing it. You just go there for 6 months or a year. And once you're there, now you can post anywhere in Canada for a management job because now you've moved up a level. So then you just, post to a place people don't want to go, and you move up to the next level and you post across. So it's very easy to move up in management using this kind of technique. And it can be kind of rewarding in some ways. Like, for example, I did a study about a ski firm and ski hill, and so governments are often which areas are they going to support and all that. So you can get an interesting look at how Canada works, and a lot of that you might be able to see. Now they often are very political, like the ski hill thing. I can tell you what. So I was a financial guy, and they gave me this ski hill business, and they're thinking, should they be supporting this? And they asked me to do an analysis of it. Is this a good, viable business and all that? So I sat down and spent a few days on all the analysis, and it was a bit somewhat risky business, but I thought, this should work out, should be a decent business. And I presented to them, and the guy looked at me and he says, well, we've already decided we're against them. So can you rewrite this with a negative and to show that they aren't going they're not going to make it. So they have the pre-done goal in mind, and now I have to write a report to say whatever the conclusion they want. So they're not looking for facts. It's a political reason for a lot of what they do. It can be kind of frustrating in government that way. So now, interestingly, is I had early in my career. So I spent this years as just a few months as a consultant in the government, and then I got offered this job, and I had a friend. Like I got into accounting, so I was an accountant that was kind of like a mentor to me. And I went and asked him, so what do you think about this? Should I take a job like this? I was like 22 at the time, and all he said is, Ed, you're too young to retire. And it's actually true. Like, one of the problems with government jobs is that you're probably locked in. Once you're in a government job, that might be all that you can do. In a lot of businesses, they don't actually count government jobs as work experience. They tend to think of it as, if you work for the government for a long time, you probably don't know how to work hard, and you don't have a proper business experience. You may find it actually hard to move out of government into a real job. And a lot of times it's surprising how little that they do. And I'll give you an example. So in the finance department we had, they had people they had someone that issued travels advances. And it surprised me. This was her entire job. There were a bunch of management people that would travel around. So she would issue a cash advance to people, and then at the end, the people would have to the management people would either have to refund the money, or they have to give receipts for all their expenses. And they would just put that together, and they had to kind of balance this. Now, there were only about 8 management people, so there were really not that many travel advances. But this was the person's job. And she'd been there 11 months, and hadn't balanced once. Now, so they put me in, can you kind of figure this out? So I went in there, spent 2 days and balanced the entire year. Basically, I did 3/4 of her entire year job in 2 days. And that, like, why is this even a job? This should be a side job for somebody. And I asked the woman, like, why are you doing this job? And she said, well, you know what, I just don't like this job. I'm bad at math. And, I said, well, but why are you doing it? How did you even get this job if, you're not interested in it? Well, they just created a job. And I got it for all the reasons that they hire in government, right? So she was female, she was indigenous, she had been in the military, and she knew French. And that's how she got the job. I said, yeah, but you're bad at math and you don't like math. Like, why isn't that, like, shouldn't that be a relevant factor here? But anyway, so the government can be kind of frustrating in that way, but it can be like, if you're just looking for something easy. I know a lot of people that just go into government just because it's a nice, relaxing job. You get a good pay, you have a decent life, and you can just have your own focus on your personal life. So now, so those are different careers, and hopefully now you're much better. You can name more than 5 or 10 possible careers. There's tons of them, and you have an idea of what you might want to do. So here's some advice for you if you're not sure, and this is how you can really make a smart choice. And one of the big things is knowledge. You got to really actually know something about a career. And so if you don't know, one of the big problems is, just like when I got into accounting career, I didn't know what an accounting career was like. So what you can do is go out and talk to some adults you admire. So find some friends or relatives, people that you know that you admire, even if you just admire them on a personal basis. But what I suggest is look for these people with a quiet confidence. Remember the millionaire next door type of confidence? Look for people that have, kind of a quiet confidence and like live reasonably comfortable life, like the lifestyle that you would want to live, and have quiet confidence. And then go talk to them about their job. So it's like, what is your job? What do you do? What do you like about your job? What do you not like about your job? What's a typical day like for you? Do you think there's a career that somebody should get into? Like, what are the chances of advancement? What kind of pay do we get from it? And all the different possible fields in your jobs in your field. What could they all be? And just ask them. And if you go and find 20 adults, here's what you do: go and find 20 adults you admire, find out about their jobs and what they do and all about them. And then all of a sudden you'll find something, that really sounds interesting when it does. And you see, this is someone who's done well that that can maybe guide you on there. Another thing is, call people you admire or leaders of companies you're interested in and interview them. And you may think that this is not, you may think this is odd, but you may have some field that you're interested in. Find the person, like the person that wrote the book, or the person that's well known, that's in a field. It's surprising how often you can actually go in and talk to that person. I used to actually get, back when I was at accounting, I would actually get people that would call me up out of the blue, like university students, just calling me up out of the blue and saying, look, I'm looking for a job in accounting. Can you tell me what an accounting job is like? So basically you call them up, you can just call them out of the blue, or call their companies and ask to meet for 30 minutes for their advice about working in their job or field. Incidentally, this is a good way to get into a company too. If you call them and ask them just a general advice, well, how do you get into a field? You know what this is? This is taking initiative to learn something. And I think a lot of people, I think you might find that people are really impressed that you actually take the time and energy to do this. So just go in and initially don't go in there looking for a job. Go in there trying to learn. Okay, so just go in and ask. So, I just trying to feel. I had a couple people that came in and talked to me and I just asked, what is it like to be an accountant? Like, how did you get to be it? What do you do in a day? What's your job like? And they just, came in and asked me some general questions. So, and the interesting thing is, I think you may find a lot of people, even successful people, would really love to be a mentor. And if you're early in a career and you pick a career and there's somebody who is really successful in that career that's willing to be your mentor, as you go through life, you can actually often call them up and say, I have a problem. What should I do with my career? What do I do? How do I figure this out? It's amazing how somebody can help you. And a lot of people would actually love to be a mentor. They get a really good feeling out of helping helping somebody, especially when somebody that's later on in their life that now has lots of experience and just would love to impart it to you. So you can just go talk to people like that. So a big thing is, if you're talking to people like this, be humble. Like, one of the problems I find with sometimes younger people is what is the saying? I wish I knew 1/10 of what I thought I knew when I was 20. When you're young, you suddenly think that you know a lot, but you don't. You have almost no work experience, hardly anything about real life. And so be humble about it, and just go in with the willingness to learn, with an open mind. If people think that you're a smart ass, they're not really going to help you. So go in and be humble. And then, also go in and be confident. If you're going to call people up, like, I've given this advice actually to lots and lots of young people, and not very many of them have done it, because I think a lot of young people are, I don't know, too shy, I'm not sure they want to call somebody up, or they're nervous doing it. But you know what? Take this initiative, be confident. And that is what can, help you really make smart choices and actually really set you off in the right direction. So, and like I said, if you those who are in university who actually know what career they want to do have a big advantage over people who are like, I think a lot of people that's going to university, I'll take a year of arts, and in year 2 or 3, I'll kind of figure out what field I want to go into. But if you know ahead of time what you want to do, you take all the right courses, and you're already doing background research on it, then it can really take you in the right direction. So now this confidence, it's like, if you're going to call people up, you got to be confident in yourself, and be confident enough to call up people. And I can tell you, I gained a lot from taking the Dale Carnegie course. And if you really are not confident, that's a great course that I would recommend. And it's about self-confidence. People think it's about public speaking, but it's about self-confidence and life. And to me, it's about life skills. They teach about how to relate to people, and how to set goals in your life, and they teach, because public speaking is such a big fear, they teach self-confidence through public speaking. So this is a course that really completely changed my life. And so, but I think what you need, it's just as a method of learning to be confident. If you can be confident early in your career, go out and talk to the people that can really help you. That's how you can really make a really smart choice. All right, so I hope you learned something today. What you've learned is, why is it hard to choose a specialty? Because you probably can't name any and don't know what they're like, or very few. How to avoid wasting your career. And we talked about how to think it through. Like, what do you want in your life? Do you want this successful, good, comfortable lifestyle with a successful career, or do you want something you really believe in, or just an easy job? And you learn my advice on how to really go out and really get the inside world on it, and on what jobs you really like. So I hope you found that helpful. Again, my name is Ed Rempel. My blog is Unconventional Wisdom. It's the #1 blog in Canada for a financial planner. It's edrempel.com. Also, if you want to contact us, if you're interested in working with us, if you hit contact on the blog, you can get a free 30-minute consultation. And if you like this video, then like and subscribe to the blog, to my blog, and to the YouTube. So we don't market to anybody, but if you subscribe to it, then all that means is, whenever I do a new video or a new article, it'll get sent to your email, and you can see whether or not you want to watch it. Okay, thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you next week.